One day, just randomly, she was like, "Yeah, let's do it." And I was like, "Can't take that back."
Buying tickets right now.
She said, "Where are we going?" And I hadn't actually thought about that part yet. So I was like, "Well, what about New Orleans?"
All right, guys. Thanks for joining us on the Elation podcast today. We're here with Mike Maurer. How are you?
Doing good. How are you?
Good. I am excited to dive into marketing and music and a whole realm of things. But let's just start with your origin story. Where are you from and where'd you grow up?
Yeah, and I'm psyched to be here too. This is a lot of fun. So, yeah, I was actually born overseas in Ukraine, in Kiev, but I grew up mostly in Connecticut, in a town called West Hartford. And there, it's not really a music town necessarily. It's no Nashville or anything. It's just a small suburb of Hartford, but was always kind of going to music, going to live concerts, going to festivals. There was a venue that was probably about 5 or 10 minutes from my house called the Webster Theater that I just like habitually would go to kind of growing up and everything. So even though it wasn't like a big music town, I went out of my way to kind of be exposed to that.
Get exposed to it.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you play music at all? Or
yeah, I picked up guitar when I was probably about 16 or 17. I don't play it well. I'm like at the open mic night level.
Gotcha.
Most of my career and most of my like skills are on the other side of the stage. I decided early on that like being on stage probably isn't for me, and switched focus to actually like producing backstage, and seeing how I can help artists and venues and everything that way.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, there's a little bit of nuances and things you have to do to be on stage, I guess you could say. But
yeah, it's a different skill set.
Yeah, it's a whole different skill set.
This is why it's a trip doing this.
Oh, yeah, right. That's funny. That's funny.
Yeah.
Well, I think we all picked up a guitar at some point to impress some girls and stuff. I did in high school, but football took over and ended up not.
It's arguably a better one.
Yeah.
Went to the University of Connecticut, and we had a big quad there, and like there'd just be like a row of guys like playing Dave Matthews and everything, and I was like, I could do that.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Well, what brought you to New Orleans?
So like I just mentioned, I went to UConn, and when I had graduated, I stayed in Connecticut for a little bit. Actually got involved in the music industry there, and I'm happy to talk about that. But after about a year and a half after I graduated, I decided that I really don't want to just live my existence in Connecticut, having grown up there, going to school there. And New Orleans, my brother went to Tulane, and New Orleans was always the place that I would go and be able to like party and have fun and everything like that. And so I was always
had a good thought process of New Orleans.
Yeah, I was like coming to visit and everything. My now wife, then girlfriend, she was still graduating. She was a year behind me. And I said, hey, when you graduate, like we should leave. We should go somewhere and move out. And she was like, no, I want my family's here, etc. And then one day, just randomly, she was like, yeah, let's do it. And I was like, can't take that back.
Buying tickets right now.
She said, where are we going? And I hadn't actually thought about that part yet. So then I was like, well, what about New Orleans? And we agreed. And probably a few months before we actually pulled the trigger and moved, I was like, wait, she hasn't been to New Orleans either. So we booked a flight. We booked a flight to New Orleans for a long weekend, and she got out and she was like, I love it there. It was the running of the bulls. It was, it's a great, like, it was a great time. And then, we moved down. The original plan was, let's just, we didn't have jobs when we moved down. We stayed with my brother for the first few weeks. It was like, let's just do this until we run out of money, and then go with our tails behind our legs back to Connecticut and apologize to our parents and go live with them. And,
we never ended up doing that.
16, 17 years later, we haven't run out of money yet.
There you go.
So we're still good.
There you go. Yeah, if it would have been LA, you might have run out of money. New Orleans, you might be able to make it last.
That's true. Knock on wood.
Yeah, 100%. So when you were in Connecticut, you were festivals. You were what exactly were you doing up there in music?
Yeah, so Interestingly enough, like I never set out to like be in the music industry. It actually kind of happened by accident, and really kind of just took a path, really kind of, I can't say on a whim, but it was unexpected for sure. So, Connecticut, I don't know if you've ever been there, but there's a ton of woods everywhere, and we would often have like big parties in the woods, like keggers and everything. And so I had just graduated. I was trying to figure out what to do next. I was working at Whole Foods part time and everything. And so, just to blow off some steam, I went to one of these parties in the woods, and at the bonfire in the middle, I was standing next to the general manager of the theater I was talking about that I used to grow up going to, the Webster Theater in Hartford, and we hit it off. We're still friends today. We talk all the time. But really, I was, my spidey sense was tingling.
Hmm.
I had helped my friends' bands put up posters and stuff, but really wasn't like super, super involved otherwise. And we just got, really chummy over the drinks and the fire and the vibe and everything. And so when I was leaving, I said, "Hey, like I don't know if there's anything for me to do there, but like I'll come and work for free, and I'll just be there. You're close to my house, and
Right.
can I do something?" And he said, "You know what? Like, yeah, like you can." So that was kind of my entry point. And I'd say like from there, I was at the Webster for about a year and a half, and it was like it was a grind. I was working probably like 12 hours a day, just unpaid, then going to Whole Foods afterwards
Right. It's a
to
grind.
yeah, to
Yeah.
finish. I was also trying to start a music publication at the time with my friends, and and my girlfriend was 45 minutes away at UConn, so
You were
it
spread thin.
reminds me that you have a lot more energy in in your 20s than you do.
100%.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
when I think back and I'm like, how the hell did I do all of that? But I made it work. And then one day the box office manager quit at the Webster Theater, and they said, "Hey Mike, you want to step in and help run the box office?" And I said, "Yeah, absolutely." And even from there, it was, working for barely above minimum wage and everything, but I just kind of kept at it, kept doing it. And by the time that I went to New Orleans about a year and a half later, I was handling not just all the ticketing and box office, but the marketing. Um, I was handling a lot of like the general manager duties the night of the show, really kind of learning how shows operate. I had actually um, promoted my first couple of shows or produced my own shows and brought in bands there and everything. So when it was time uh, to leave and go down to New Orleans, I really had like the fundamentals down, and I had some good contacts along the way.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So what did you actually go to school for?
Communications,
Communications.
yeah, and I
Okay.
really didn't like. I don't really
It's still a part of what you do.
exactly.
Yeah, it's still a part of what you do.
Yeah,
We're communicating right now.
that's a good point. I think more of what I learned in school, honestly, is like how to function in in real life, right? Like how to build like relationships with people, how to actually, at school, at UConn, I had started a chapter of a fraternity. So even just kind of going through that process and like building that from the ground up and going from, a couple of people to recruiting it to where it's now a large legitimate fraternity on campus, and it's still there today, just takes a lot of these like fundamental concepts that you learn along the way and just like really instills them in you.
Absolutely. No, college is a great experience. I mean, I just feel like even if you don't have the right, um, I guess you could say, courses that you're learning, if you pick up on how to be social and build relationships and be around society in a
That's
sense,
exactly right.
I feel like
It's
you
like
pick
just
up.
like living by yourself or with
Right.
like with your contemporaries,
Right.
and being able to like sink or swim on your own, and then saying, "You know what, I'm actually actually swimming a little bit.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, it gives you a little bit of confidence and really teaches you how to navigate this stuff.
100%. Were there any festivals in New Orleans that you were like had your eyes on when you were starting to come here?
No, so when I like I said, when I first moved down here, I didn't have a job or anything. And I wasn't sure if I was going to continue in the music industry. I had some connections and everything, but really just started networking super hard. It took the 2 weeks that my brother actually allowed for us to stay with him before he kicked us out to to really grind and make connections, meet a bunch of people, and one of the companies that I met up with was a company called Hypersoul, which managed at the time, Big Sam's Funky Nation, Mia Borders, Chris Royal, and then over the course of the 4 years I was there, expanded to Flow Tribe, Earfunk, Stooges Brass Band, etc.
Right.
So, I had started. We had clicked, Tony Chacho and Donna Santiago, and myself. And they said, "Why don't you come in, start helping out here and everything?" And I was there for, like I said, 3.5 or so, 4 years, and really had over that time started building um, a much more wide Rolodex because a lot of what I was doing wasn't just on the marketing side, but I was actually like I was booking Big Sam's tour. I was booking the Stooges tour. I was helping manage them day to day. Same thing with Mia Borders, Flow Tribe, etc. And one of the best things was at the time, this was 2010 ish, 2009. The festival scene was really hitting, and everybody always could use like a little bit of New Orleans party
Yeah.
in their festival lineup.
Right.
So we were just able to slot in artists really well into all of these different festivals, Coachella, Bonnaroo, Wakarusa, which doesn't exist anymore, so on and so, Jam
Right.
Cruise, etc. And it was really me doing them, after a few years and building those connections. And so I got really exposed to festivals. Plus, my boss Donna was on the Jazz and Heritage Board, and
Gotcha.
so kind of between all that, we were also promoting probably about 100 shows a year during Jazz Fest and Halloween weekends down on Frenchman Street. So really kind of had our fingers involved in a lot of pies, but that allowed me to absorb just a really wide spectrum of skills and really start like building up from there to where I, you know, after 3.5, 4 years, I knew how the industry worked. I knew a lot of the key players. I really understood how a lot of the live event ecosystem works,
Hmm.
and that's kind of served me to today.
I got you. And it's a it's so funny because wide range of things, a knowledge of things is one thing that definitely helps you in music. I mean, like I know when I wanted to become a producer, but you got to find your where you fit in the industry. So when I moved to LA, it didn't necessarily fit as a producer right away. So I found my legs in live sound,
Hmm.
and in live sound you learn so much about the inner workings of the industry because not only do you learn the stage stuff and the how to set up the stage and the equipment, but you learn how people act on stage, how backstage works, how the whole ecosystem works
Yeah,
on making that magic on stage.
it's like, do you know what like a T skill is and
Mm.
all? So like the idea of a T skill, and this is probably like this is a concept I think way too much about sometimes. But the concept of a T skill is you have a broad range of knowledge, like the top of a T, in a lot of different disciplines and specialized knowledge in one discipline. And there's also like a concept called an H skill, which is you have specialized knowledge in like two disciplines,
Right.
right? Two like so like live events and marketing, right? Or even for me, like technology is kind of like a third pillar of
Right.
it. And the magic and like your uniqueness is your ability to bridge the gap between those things,
Got you.
right? And kind of compound them. So like I understand deeply how live events work
Right.
from top to finish, how they're produced, how they're built from the ground up, like all of the key players, how to build a budget, etc. And I
Absolutely.
understand marketing, and being able to bridge those things together, I think is just, it's such an important way um, to structure your personal development. It's wildly important.
No, 100%, 100%. And filling many hats,
Yep.
many hats, because it's just a broad. It's so big too.
Yeah.
Like you really realize how many people it encompasses for one tour.
Oh,
You
absolutely.
know,
Yeah, and I think it's a even like it's almost the way that my career developed too, in the sense that, through the Webster Theater, through managing artists, and everything, I had a really broad base, kind of like you're saying, of skills, and like I really could see the bigger picture of the music industry. Um, After that, I actually left the music industry though entirely, and I went to go work at an ad agency. And what that did was start building
we
up
start building it
that
up.
pillar,
Yep,
right?
yep, 100%.
And there I learned, data and analytics, how to structure ad campaigns, how to actually sell, um, what's called like the marketing funnel, how to generate awareness and drive those people to be engaged
Right,
and drive them into a community, and then actually drive them to purchase, and really like push them down that like funnel the entire way, and really start building these things out, so that when I re-entered the music industry, I had both sides of it like on lock, and I knew how it worked. I was able to jump right in. I had a lot of depth in those disciplines as well. So
yeah, and I feel like that's what um, it can continue to drive you in the industry when you're not making money, is the constant learning that you have in front of you.
mhm.
Because I feel like
Oh,
if
absolutely.
you're constantly engaged and you're
Yeah.
constantly learning new things, you constantly feel like you're moving.
You know what? So I would always tell this to myself. I would say, because you deal with a lot of shit in the
Yeah,
industry, right?
absolutely.
And as you know, and I would say, you know what, like I'm maybe not making money. I'm maybe like having just working with people I really don't enjoy working with. I said, as long as I'm learning something, it's worth it for me. As long
Right.
as I'm like picking something else up, it's worth it for me.
Yep.
And I'm gonna be motivated. I'm gonna be driven. And like the second that I stop learning, everything, then it's like, all right, I got to do something differently.
Right. Well, that's why I love math, because I feel and music and math are very
For sure.
intertwined. So because I feel like there's always a new algorithm to learn.
Oh, dude, for
So,
sure.
as long as you're learning new algorithms everywhere you
There's
go,
always like another corner to peek around.
yep, yep, at some point I'm going to be able to put
Yeah.
X and Y and equal something.
Hmm.
So yeah, no, 100%. And it was kind of the same way with me with the industry. Like I said, I went out to be a producer, but I wasn't a good enough producer to be in LA.
Hmm.
So I had to find a spot that fit, and live sound fit. I got a great job. I ended up doing a live sound at the W in Hollywood, on Hollywood Boulevard
Yep.
for 18 months. Met everybody possible you could meet in LA, because it was their signature night, their jazz night, every Sunday
Right.
night. And ended up doing live sound for Aerosmith and John Mayer and Pussycat Dolls and Bieber and yeah, the list goes on and on and on. And Mariah Carey and Jackson 4, that was a fun one.
That's funny. Yeah, that's wild.
But and then you build networks and you build relationships. You do a good job in one spot, and people put you in other positions, and it just keeps moving and moving and moving. And eventually, it turned me into owning a studio in LA.
It's kind of like I don't remember if we were filming at the time, but we were saying right before, where it's like the entirety of it is, if people are like, hey, how'd you make it in the music industry? Like how are you successful or whatever? And the answer is like, I've just put one foot in front of the other. As it's kind of like you were saying, you're
Yep.
just like kept on doing the thing and just moving forward and inching your way forward a little bit. And then like eventually it compounds, right? And like
Yep.
more people take notice, bigger things start, you go from a venue to management to like to festivals to to much larger scales and larger scales, and you're kind of every single time you're really just putting one foot in front of the other.
100%, 100%. And every time you gain knowledge, and every time somebody pays attention to it, and if you do a good job, it's eventually it leads to a path, and stick with it, I guess, is the number one thing I'd say, because there are a lot of times where I
Yeah.
just would have quit in normal circumstances if I didn't love music.
Yeah, I think it's like it's interesting. I think like, to me, the the specialization piece is so important because I think a lot of people just they want to get into the music industry, right? And they don't really know. There's like a lot of like entries and everything like that. And sticking with it, I think, is important, but also realizing that it is in many ways a crowded industry,
Right.
right? And the way that you're able to stand out, right? There's kind of like two sides to it, right? One is like this race to the bottom where you're like, oh, I'll do it for cheaper, I'll work harder, blah blah blah,
Right.
right? And the other one is, and this is I did a lot of festival and venue consulting, and on the festival side, like most of my pitch was, hey, you only have one shot a year to get this right. Like you can hire an intern, right?
Right.
But if you want, or you can hire somebody with less experience. But you only have one shot a year to get this right. Like your decisions have to be spot on.
Absolutely. You screw
And
1 year up, you're ruined your tickets for the next year.
exactly. And even, at the scale of festivals, you screw one decision up, right? And
Right.
it's all dominoes and everything. So the idea is like, um, is just to specialize and specialize and specialize, because like at some point you're truly going to be uh known as that go-to person for that thing, right?
Right.
And whatever that specialty is. And that's a big part of like how you actually like carve out your niche and develop a
And
career.
keep your job. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. 100%. Well, so how did Hogs for a Cause come into play?
Yeah. So
Because secretly, I know Becker.
yeah. Yeah, I know he was on this thing.
And I got a Piglet. I'm on Piglet. I'm on
Oh,
a
killer.
team.
Yeah.
So which
So you get down Friday nights. So.
yes. Well, so I'm the one who won Friday Night Party for
Yep.
Piglet, because
Yeah.
I started bringing the music to the tent. So I did the stage, I did the flooring, I brought the axe.
Y'all had a great party last year.
Yeah, well, but and I hate to put my team on blast,
Yeah.
but as much as we cared about the party, I think the people who were worried about the food started caring less
Mhm.
about the food. So this year we're a little different
Yeah.
than when we have been. But that being said, I love the festival. And
Love it.
I think it's a great cause. But what do you specifically do for
Yeah.
it, and where you guys going with it?
No, for sure. So I started Hogs basically like anything else. At the time, I started with them in, I want to say, 2018. And at the time I was doing a lot of consulting and services for festivals. So I was helping launch a festival called the Beach Life in LA. I had just worked for a festival producer where for the last 3 years, where we built up Tortuga Music Festival in Fort Lauderdale. We built this huge mega festival in Canada called Pemberton Music Festival, Buku here in New Orleans, and everything. So I kind of took a lot of experience, and I was working with a lot of festivals and events to really kind of, especially ones that either were, first year festivals, or needed to really build and scale, or in Hogs's case, they had just moved to a new location. They were looking a little bit to refine and reinvent and like grow the festival. And so initially my work was overseeing the marketing, the ticketing, all of like the at that year we were moving to like on-site payments, as like the
Yep.
cashless payments on site.
Yep.
I had a lot of experience with that as well, so kind of overseeing all that program and everything. And since then, my role's really kind of diversified, and not just kind of being one of the few people that works year round on the festival and like in a producer capacity, and truly few people. There's as you know,
Yep.
there's only a few of us. But also really helping out, especially over these last few years on the charity side. And as you know, like all the good work that Hogs
Absolutely.
does, and one of the interesting and key differences for Hogs that really kind of drew me to it is if you take a festival that I helped launch and build called Tortuga Music Festival. We had sold it to Live Nation in 2017, and it's still one of the country's largest music festivals. It's 40,000 people on the beach and everything. There's a big nonprofit arm of it for ocean conservation, right? But it's a for-profit entity.
Right.
It's there to make money, and then a portion of sales goes to the nonprofit. Hogs is truly at its core. There's no nonprofit entity. It is the nonprofit entity.
Right.
The entirety of Hogs is nonprofit. And one of the things that's truly kind of like attracted me to Hogs is this really unique mixture of like the community, right? The teams and all
Right.
like the vibe they bring, the music, obviously like the food is great, but then really at its core from the ground up, and this is something we talk about a lot internally. It's not just the 2 days of the festival. What the festival truly is this year-round culmination and year-round celebration of the fundraising that you guys and all these other teams do year-round,
Right.
right? And and so the really interesting thing is Hogs, there's so much of its effort and so much of the fundraising and everything goes right back out the door to develop these communities, right? To help families with pediatric brain cancer, to build out these hospital programs. And we just we just announced our first research biobank, right, in Colorado and everything, and all these things where it's going back to learning, right? It's all these muscles that I hadn't actually pulled before, where the festival side was really like cut and dry or tried and true
Right.
for me.
Right.
But then it was like, hey, there's this whole new world of like how we get the word out. So, how does Hogs become national, right? Or even international and everything? It's not necessarily just the festival, right? What it
It's
is
the
that
cause. Yeah.
associating barbecue culture, right? And the good that like the barbecue community can do with like pediatric brain cancer support, and the impact that you can make,
Right.
and associating those two things together on a national level, where a restaurant that doesn't have anything to do with the festival can still support Hogs, and everything is a really interesting challenge, and a lot of the focus right now, and a big part of like my motivation for it.
Absolutely. Well, food, music, and giving back all give you elation in life, right?
That's true.
Right. So
It's a killer combo.
absolutely, and it can, and I feel like New Orleans has always been good at that, blending like our feel good lifestyle
Yeah.
with some type of cause and
So I think
effect.
like when I think about it, so like my background is really obviously in music festivals largely, and I've done a lot of other events. I worked on this massive Christmas event where we sold 1 million tickets in 6 weeks,
Wow.
and everything. But with Hogs, it's really, I think about it a lot because it is truly like, I would say the future of festivals, are like the model there, where I would say like new mega festivals. So there's not going to be a new Coachella. There's not going to be a new Bonnaroo. Those are going to keep going,
Right.
forever. But the reality is that when it comes to costs, artist costs, vendor costs, and the
Which is all gone up.
yeah, it's all gone up, and it's all highly inflated and everything, with the cash flow management of starting a new festival, meaning that when we were doing it in 2014 through a company called Hookah Entertainment, we had just gone off. We sold a festival in Gulf Shores that we had developed called Hangout Fest, and we were launching Tortuga, Pemberton, and we bought into Buku. At that point, getting outside money and investor money was relatively easy. It's a sexy business,
Right.
lots of
Everybody
cash
wants
coming in,
entertainment. Right.
etc. Right? At this point, 10 years later, when you look at kind of the inflated costs and everything, it's not as easy to raise money. And so the challenge then is this cash flow management game, right?
Right.
Of how do I take in enough ticketing money to go pay off set all these costs, but artists don't, you can't announce your lineup until,
Well, and there's
so
also the balance of what artists are going to bring the right tickets because
that's
now
right. Yeah.
there's a much slimmer line between the balancing act of hiring an artist because if I'm like just to give you an example, so like I've been on the side of
Yeah.
promoter and booking acts, and I created the No Limit reunion tour together. I've done all the logistics on that side for big concerts and main live events. And just on the booking the artist side has gotten so expensive.
Hmm.
The thought process of selling the tickets has become much more is much harder to think
Yeah. Your
about the
margins are much
process because
slimmer.
yeah,
It's
100%. And I can't hire the extras anymore to help bring that extra 1,000 tickets or
that's
that
right.
extra 2,000
Look,
tickets.
it was always a risky equation, right? Even in like the festival heyday where they were popping up everywhere, right? The equation was like we got to grow this thing fast enough to generate money to pay everybody back and build a brand and everything like that. It was always risky, and I've got truly many war stories
Right.
from that aspect of it. At this point, the equation just straight up doesn't work. So now it's not necessarily about like how fast you grow. It's festivals are about how much of a commitment or how much of your community you can tap into,
Right.
right? And so when you look at something like Hogs, one of the smartest things that Hogs does, and truly kind of the way to build a festival for the future, is they deleverage who's playing on stage, right?
Right.
One of the things that I always think about is I can't control who's touring, right? Artists are going to be touring,
Right.
some aren't, and everything. So your lineup is this X factor. What you can control is the experience. In Hogs' case, what you can control are, you know, the teams coming and bringing a party, the like everybody just being in good and great like spirits and good vibes, and the music's going to be great too, right? But it's always going to be a little bit of a balancing act or a wild card to try to make it work. But deleveraging who's playing on stage and focusing instead on tapping into a community and the full experience,
Yeah, you're
I
more
think is
about the
real.
teams than the music.
Absolutely.
You're none of your lineups have ever outshined the teams.
100%. And I think that's one of the things, you know, when I see the festivals that are truly like building organically right now is they find a community, right? They tap into it and they build up from there. And you can have a music festival, right? But as soon as you get into this game of just throwing money at who's playing on stage, then you're already in a losing
100%.
proposition. So
Well, and to give you an example, so like, let's say let's just go pre-COVID.
mhm,
Pre-COVID, we were booking Lil Wayne for I did a lot in the urban space, so
yeah,
that's why I
yeah,
brought it up. Let's just say Lil Wayne. I was booking him for 100 grand, 125 grand, maybe 150, depending on the market
mhm.
space. His cost now,
Oh yeah.
700,
I was about to say, I'm
750.
sure he's a million for festivals.
Well, and probably a million for festivals. But part of that is also how Live Nation has screwed the pooch on
Yep.
the industry
Yeah.
because now they're sharing profits on the back end.
Yeah.
So, which and as well as they've signed the artist and they're doing the concert and they're sharing the profits on the back end. So, as an independent promoter, most main artists are going to want to share 20, 30, 40% on the back end of my ticket sales.
Mhm.
And that just isn't going to work.
And I think it's tough because going back to this like cash flow management game, Live Nation doesn't have to deal with that.
No.
They can launch. So if I'm a relatively unknown promoter who wants to just do good in my community and book an artist, and I call up somebody to go have them play from a major agency, they're gonna say, "Great, give me 100% of my fee up front."
Right.
Right? And I'll say, "I haven't even gone on sale with tickets
Right.
yet." Right?
Right.
They say, "Well, we don't know who you are. We don't know if this festival." Nobody's wrong here, right? But that creates this disparity where it becomes just very difficult to actually launch these things.
Absolutely.
Whereas Live Nation doesn't have to worry about that.
No, when you
They're-
own the ticket company, the venue, and the artist, It's kind
Yeah.
of a monopoly, but well, that's a whole other conversation. I feel like you and I could go for hours on,
Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
we don't need to get negative
But
on
I think
that.
like yeah,
But
bringing it back to like, and I could give you. I mean, there's so
well,
many
so
examples, but
I have a war story that I wanted to share
oh yeah,
with
yeah,
you.
let's hear it.
I was in the car business in
Hmm.
Palm Beach forever, and the car business is actually what transitioned me in the music industry. But and the reason why is because we started doing car events,
Yeah,
and they kind of started smallish. But at the end, we were doing some pretty major, 3, 4 day car events with VIP racing track days and super cars. They were releasing cars on our, like Mercedes released their new
yep,
Gull Wing on our like for the first time in America. We did a bunch of bigger car stuff at the end. But what logistic wise, the number one war story that I always have is rain insurance.
yeah,
And what most people don't understand
yeah.
is rain
Weather insurance.
insurance.
Yep.
So, and I don't know if Hogs deals with rain insurance at all, but I know now because I got
Yeah,
screwed on my rain insurance, that you buy it by the quarter inch, and there are certain things, and I don't know if it's changed, but how I got screwed was I hired a company out of New York to do my
mm-hmm.
rain insurance, which had the best quote.
Mm-hmm.
But they weren't. I was in Florida doing the show, so that was an out of state company.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know at the time. This was 2006 or so. So I was in my early 20s. Did not know you could make them have an adjuster on site,
Yep.
a rain meter on site. So they ended up using the rain meter at the airport 20 minutes away and didn't rain as much
Yeah.
as it did on our property. So you go through all this and then you realize, oh, wait, I hired an out of state company, which means if I want to sue them, I got to sue them in federal court. That's a
Yeah.
whole different system than suing them in state court. So,
And
I
now you
ended
can
up,
hire meteorologists who are on call, who are watching the weather for the duration of the festival. I'll
well,
tell you, like,
yeah,
we ran into this. I run an amphitheater in Oklahoma City, a 10,000 capacity amphitheater. And we recently had Incubus play last season. And the show got rained out and everything. We were in the process of getting insurance, but we didn't have it. It ended up being a huge thing because obviously, like, Incubus is not cheap, and
right.
and we were potentially ready to lose a lot of money. Thankfully, the the founder of the company Gate 52, where I'm at now, is has a long history. He was 20 years the head of William Morris, which is the largest agency,
Yeah, absolutely.
and everything. And the band called him and said, we're going to give everything back, which shows the
That
power of
never happens.
strong
Yeah.
relationships. Yeah,
Yeah.
they said,
Yeah.
we can't, we can't do wrong by Mark, and everything, but really, we got weather insurance pretty quickly after that. And for festivals, it's like it's a gimme.
Yeah, but every time I bring that up to people who don't know the business, they're
Yeah.
like, "Wait a minute, rain insurance?" And I'm like, "Yeah, and it's expensive. It's not
No,
cheap."
yeah, it's
But
it's massively important.
it's funny because it's massively important for a
And I think
multi-day situation, especially.
the funny thing is that I would say, like, that is a really good analogy to, like, a lot of things that I think about with festivals, which is with festivals, things are so complex and the scale is so high often that one small wrong decision compounds. And
Yep.
I remember, I'll tell you the story really quickly, but so Tortuga Music Festival, the country music festival that we used to produce, basically, it was on the beach, right?
Lauderdale, right?
In Fort Lauderdale, exactly right.
I lived in West Palm.
Oh,
so,
okay, great. So you knew it.
Yeah.
So we had Kenny Chesney,
Yep.
we had Dirk Bentley, like, all these mega country stars. Beautiful festival, super vibey. And because it was on the beach, we were like, oh, like, let's make a vibey entrance. Let's move it to the sand, right? So you enter into the festival, you're in the sand and everything. And I was running the front gate among a lot of other things.
Many
there.
hats.
Yeah. And what we didn't think about was, hey, like the sand, you walk a little bit slower, and most people are like in flip flops. And it's not like a regular festival where you go throughout the day, right, to the festival. You want to get there early because it's
Right.
like a beach day and everything. So what we ended up having was, let's say, like, 15, 20,000 people lined up at 10 o'clock on the sand. The sun was shining down, the sand was getting hot and everything. They're trying to shuffle in, moving a little bit slower, right? And through the front gates, and it became this huge congestion point because you don't really think about it. Let's say somebody enters a second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds slower because they have flip flops or losing their
But it
flip flops, etc.
compiles. Yeah.
But over the course of 20,000 people,
Right.
that's an hour, 2 hour, whatever delay where we actually had to go and like flush the gates and just say like, hey, let's stop scanning, do a visual check. Let's get these people in because it's becoming a really dangerous situation.
Right.
And let's just get them into the festival. And I think about that often because it's a seemingly innocent and small decision,
Right.
right? And it compounds. And at the scale of festivals, these decisions matter a whole lot.
100%. 100%. I mean, just look at Houston and what happened with Astroworld and all
Exactly
that.
right.
You know, you make one wrong security plan, which I've seen a lot of bad security plans going to festivals over the years.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, that like the Astroworld security plan was the quote unquote like proper way there was a couple of very notable exceptions,
Right.
but it wasn't
It wasn't really a bad plan.
it wasn't a layout that would be uncommon to a lot
No,
of
no,
festivals.
no. But that's when you go to you on site. It's got to be specific. And I feel like there was
Yeah.
a moment on site that there's a couple things on site that they probably missed, and maybe didn't know that the people that were coming, like the type of people that were coming.
And I think that in that case, and one of the other big lessons of festivals is chain of command is so important. And
Yep.
that's where things really broke down, I think, at
Yeah, I
Astroworld,
agree.
is you have to very much respect this chain of command where things roll up to your department and roll up to the festival director, because that's how you make really fast decisions, and everybody has to be accountable along the way to make those decisions.
100%.
Because at the end of the day, you have a team of probably 30, 40 people responsible for a crowd of 40,000 people, right?
Right. Yeah, it's
So
pretty crazy. Pretty crazy. Are there any things you want to share and announce right here live for Piglet, or excuse me, Hogs for a Cause? I'll give my Piglet team a little boost there. No, Hogs for a Cause 2026.
no, I mean, I would just say for Hogs, we're heading into, I mean, last year, it was a real landmark year for us. We were blessed with Zach Top, who absolutely blew up since we
Yep.
had booked him. We had perfect weather. We had the most people ever on there. We raised $5.25 million. We had, raised the most amounts we ever have. And at this point, we've distributed over $15 million to families, to hospital programs, etc. I think that like for Hogs this year, kind of going into, I believe it's our 18th year, we're poised to continue to grow both the festival, but also one of the things, kind of like I was saying before, is we're going to be putting front and center all of the work that we're doing. We're launching a big Texas initiative. We're launching an initiative to connect all barbecue restaurants nationwide who want to participate and fundraise through them, and really trying to grow the brand presence that way. And the festival really kind of being like this critical point where everybody says, we did a great job, we broke records again, let's go out and throw down for 2 weeks.
Absolutely.
2 days.
It's our celebration.
Yeah.
It's our
So
celebration.
keep bringing the party.
Absolutely.
Make it bigger this
Make
year.
it bigger, huh? Make it bigger. All right. Well, great. Well, thanks for coming through. Do you want to share some of the Hogs socials, or where they can buy their tickets and all that stuff?
Yeah. I'll say this much. So Hogs for the Cause tickets are on sale right now. It's April 10th and 11th this year at the Lakefront Arena in Gentilly. And you can buy tickets at hogsfest.org. You can also learn more of what we're doing on the charity side and the impact that ticket sales, among many other things like the fundraising, etc., makes at hogsforthecause.org. And you can read my blog at goformike.com.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, great. Well, thanks for sharing the story today.
Yeah,
It
man, it
was
was
awesome
fun.
talking about it.
This is killer.
Yeah, and thank you guys for joining us today. And if you'd like to see more for Hogs for a Cause, please check it out. It's one of the best festivals here in New Orleans. We have a team, Team Piglet. We won Friday Best Party, what, 2 years ago? We beat Boar's Nest out in 9 years running. So we got that going for us.
There you
We know
go.
how to party. That's what you could say. But I appreciate you and I appreciate you. And if you'd like to see more, please like and subscribe. And I'll see you next time. Peace.